I'm learning why I can't remember that. Cody, one of the bigger kids, was actually a year younger than I was. He was a little shorter than I was, but stocky, solid. He used to come up behind me during the seemingly never-ending line to wait for lunch, grab the back of the collar on whatever I was clothed in that day, and rip me out of the lunch line. "Thanks for holding my spot," he'd say, as he slid into what was my spot in line. This prick is the one that triggered me to have a long-tempered fuse that reacts and burns very, very quickly. It would happen daily, day after day. It didn't matter which administrator I talked to, it continued. The more I talked, the worse he'd get, pulling hard enough to almost collapse my trachea one time even. It was painful. I snapped. I saw him coming down the hall one day and acted like I didn't. He got closer. I felt my body temporize and my skin tingle a little, almost like that pins and needles feeling you get when your hand falls asleep, but not that deep, not that strong, just lightly all over my body, just on the surface of my skin. I see an arm reach for me out of my peripheral vision, and time slows. I was talking with a buddy, and I saw the reflection of Cody's arm in my friend's left pupil as it dilated from the sudden change in light reflection crossing in front of his face. I leaned to the right, slightly, and brought my right hand up toward my left shoulder. There's a brown painted brick wall that's going to prevent me from escaping to the right. I bump my right shoulder on it. I'm pinned. I feel my heart rate increase while my right hand, seemingly on its own, grasps the wrist of my assailant. In what I remember being a light, floaty moment, I leaned back, pulled Cody toward me with my right arm, and grabbed the back of his neck with my cupped left hand. I followed that momentum through to forcefully exchange places with this bully. His momentum was thrown so far off balance, so quickly, he launched off his feet, face first, into where I was standing just a moment before, and bounced his round, bulbous nose off the brick wall. I don't remember much about the rest of that day, other than staring at the principal while he groaned about something with anger in his eyes. All I heard was static. If it wasn't quiet, it was loud. Cody never came near me again. I don't know what happened to him after my dad and I moved away from that town, after the divorce, but whatever. Good riddance. I still have some stuff to work on. I have a violent spirit in me, that if I don't watch my temper, it still scares me. This demon has reared its head a few times throughout my life. I still battle with it daily. But thankfully, school let out for the summer soon after this incident. I was so happy to be outside again all day. Freedom. My bike, my dog, my fishing pole, my possible bag, and my 22 rifle. Life was good again. This summer, I went on a 50-mile backpacking hike with my Boy Scouts group. We were gone for about a week, hiking through the Uinta Mountains in Utah. I don't know the exact trail we took, but the finality of the hike took us to the peak of Kings Peak. It stands at 13,528 feet in elevation on this beautifully flat, stationary earth Heavenly Father made for us. I remember standing on top, gasping for air in the thin altitude of oxygen, and marveling at the beauty of where I was. We hiked for miles a day, stopping to rest in the shade and take a drink from a mountain spring bubbling up from the ground. When I returned home from that trip, Mom was at work, and my siblings were working to empty all of my belongings from my room. They couldn't, or wouldn't, tell me why, and just said that I had to wait until Mom came home. She arrived about an hour later. The only thing left in my room was a bare mattress on the floor and a sleeping bag. She told me she'd found drugs in my room and cigarettes and was tired of my attitude. Quote, if I was going to act like a criminal, she was going to treat me like one. The drugs she had found and referred to was a Ziploc baggie with a slightly yellow powder in it. It also had the container that it came out of zipped inside it. It was labeled by the factory that produces it, Lemonade Kool-Aid, and I was using it to try and color the tips of my hair like the cool kids at school were doing. The cigarettes were just the filter butts that I'd picked up on the side of the road and was going to ask what they were, but I'd taken them out of my pockets and forgot to ask about them. But there was no time for questions and answers. I was grounded until further notice. I was confined to that room with no options, like a prisoner. She stripped me down to my tidy whities, shut and locked the door from the outside. She brought me a piece of toast and a fried egg for breakfast each day, half a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch, and the other half for dinner. I could have as much water as I asked for, but but was only allowed to use the bathroom once every 4 hours, supervised with the door open. I ended up pulling my screen out of my window at night, jumping out, running around the yard and neighborhood in my undies in the moonlight, just to have some freedom while Mom was asleep. This punishment lasted for weeks until it was Dad's visitation weekend again. Because Mom was working full time, we kids had to pick up a lot of areas where Dad wasn't there to do things. She worked for a newspaper conglomerate that owned all the paper media at the time in Utah. We would get up with her at 2:30 or 3 in the morning to sit in the back of an old blue Subaru station wagon, folding freshly printed newspapers, looking like coal miners by the time we were done, delivering over 500 newspapers every day and almost 750 on Sundays. Mom got 10 cents a paper, so we did a lot. One sunny Saturday, when she and I had butted heads for the umpteenth time while she was preparing to head to some meeting for her job, she asked me to have the lawn mowed by the time she got home. I hated mowing, but it gave me the opportunity to load a CD in my new boombox stereo outside and be away from her. So I went. Right away, I had issues.